Hey guys, welcome for another video. You are watching.
Hey guys, welcome back for another section. I can tell, welcome back to the dark side of model context protocol. Why am I telling dark side? Because in this section, we're gonna discuss about the current MCP security landscape. I know every industry is running behind the MCP servers and they want to have their own MCP servers, making the customer interaction or a user interaction very easily and a convenience, right? But while doing this, there are a lot of security stakes that are being on a table that we're gonna discuss, and these are going in a wild and creating a CVEs with the CVEs is more than 9, and like almost many of them are I, right? One might be thinking that those their apps are safe behind the auth firewalls or validation logic that I have configured, but those are nothing whenever we're dealing with the LLMs, right? So in this section, let's overly, let's see some of the things on eye level. Definitely, I'm not going to take more time into this because these are the some of the items which are available over the internet. You guys can read the blogs on that, and these are the numbers generated from the Anthropic research agent, not by on me. In a sense, I didn't do my own research and created. These are developed from the search agent, and I believe that these numbers are authentic. If wrong, please do not scold me in the comment section, right? So with the current state, we have almost like 43% of MCP servers vulnerable with the command injection, and almost like 558k vulnerable MCP remote servers, and almost like 12 critical CVEs that have been registered so far, and the cost of which is evaluated around 4.5 million. And if you can see the vulnerability distribution, it is like command injection 43%, prompt injection around 89%, path travels around 37, and similarly with SSRF and authentication bypass and information disclosure, right? So let's talk about few CVs. There are a bunch of CVs, but I have not listed all of them. I just listed two, and among that, I'll talk about only one because you have so many resources, very good blogs which can explain much better way than me about CV. So I would redirect you guys to go and explore and understand the each CVs and their impact. But I can give you the oversight about the first CVE that is launched with as a vulnerability in the MCP remote itself. In a sense, the MCP remote client server that would be running on the client computer, the vulnerability on that itself, which led to execute the remote code execution. Earlierly, when the MCP came and there was MCP remote running on a client side, the kind of connection that would be triggered for a local MCP remote servers, right? It was on the HTTP mode. So it was, the transport mechanism made anyone can proxy and spoof the malicious server and send back the malicious response, something like sending back the prompts of malicious CLI tools lines, or shell scripts, or making application to execute anything, right? What happens when these kind of prompts passed back from the malicious server, the remote server will again send back to the MCP client, and LLM application will read it as some kind of command or the action that user wants to execute, and that particular whatever the call made would get executed on the client computer, right? In another typical way, if you wanna look into another scenario where the MCP remote server can be deployed in the LAN network, and the attacker inside the LAN can spoof that particular request going on, and he can redirect those requests to the malicious server which he can host, and as a response he can send the malicious data which could trigger the RCE on the client's desktop. I know you guys might be thinking, how simple is this? right? You know, that's what it happens whenever the new technology came in. MCP is evolving as a technology in a very matured way, and definitely with the help of very good security people and like-minded peoples, the security posture of MCP gonna evolve sooner and better in the coming days, right? It's like it's all the joint efforts of us, of the people who is designing this training, right? The work about you and me, guys, who can make MCP secure every day. The timeline of some of the major security incidents happened. You know, we had the MCP release on November, and this whatever I explained, the CVE got around December. Following that, we had a several big incident happened over internet. There are very good blogs that one can read to understand more about this. I would really recommend them to go and explore that. And another interesting topic that I wanna just discuss about the landscape is the kind of attacks and the patterns that we are seeing in the MCP. The major attack vectors are the prompt injection and the command injection, because whatever the validation you have, LLM has the ability to interpret the validation and bypass those things and executes whatever it needs to be executed, right? Similarly, the kind of rogue attack vector, that is command injection, which can compromise entire server level and path travels and SRF, are commonly observed when you have the capability called resources enabled, which could let you to, or which can let attacker to read the internal file system and access the internal network. And authentication bypass, even the MCP security practices guide suggest the developers to use or 2.1 pixie methodology, which is one of the better way to deal with the OAuth when we dealing with the client based environment, right? So, but I've seen oftenly a lot of developers are still relying on 2.0, the implicit grant or client secret or client ID, exposing way of implementation in the OAuth. This can bring a lot of issues on a table, if at all, if actual access token got leaked and server gets compromised. We're gonna discuss about each attacks in the upcoming videos, where we talk about the threat modeling and some basic part about the offensive security. And one of the important thing before we end this section, which I want to talk about, is how our defensive security that we were following in earlier days will not work here. In earlier days, what we thought, input validation is everything, because we had some kind of regex pattern or syntax pattern to block the SQL or XSS, right? But for the MCP world, it is LLM that generates the validation will not even work, because we can have a validation on the syntax, but LLMs are something like semantics, right? Like how you gonna have the validation on the semantics? So like even if you block certain words, LLMs are creative enough to come up with new words, right? You can't block like thousands of words at a single time. And authentication equals authorization was one of the old way, but in the current stage of MCP, tools have that particular authority that enables the user to interact. In the sense, whenever the LLM calls a tool, the tool executes on the backend with the authorization of the user that has been passed along with the client. In a sense, during the OAuth mechanism or the authentication mechanism you choose, if at all, if it is a OAuth, the access token that is binded will be will be scoped only to the user's capability, right? So all the authentication authorization which we were thinking in the older context is implemented on the tools level, and tools have that ambient authority decision. uh, Next is network isolation. Earlier we thought internal network is something like a safe zone, right? We saw one of the CVE where you could spoof the MCP server and send back the code execution. Uh, that kind of thing will not be applicable because MCP servers are designed to connect the local environment, like internal environment with the external networks by design itself, right? So indirectly MCP servers became the data routers, where attacker can rewrite their prompts to make the task whatever they need to be done, right? So that's one of the security paradox that we have. And rate limiting. Earlier we could have a rate limited as part of a request that would be triggered from an API. Here in a single prompt we can make or we can ask the LLM client to drive more than 5 to 6 tasks, right? So this has become kind of troublesome. It's not like we can't implement the rate limit, but the kind of challenge on the point where we have to embed these rate limits, and logging has to be proper, because behind the scene what happens when you use MCP, it's actually your own API that is getting triggered. Like, it's not like some any rogue entry or rogue data you will see. It's only the actual API that you have developed. Those are the one which are executed, but all the passing happens at the proxy level. So we should have a proper logging mechanism, or guardrails that have been implemented to identify any kind of LLM interpreting the commands like steal cookies, or get me the API tokens, or get me the user data or database, something on those. And whenever these kind of keywords being there, we should have some mechanism to alert or to inspect more into those kind of logs, right? And the lethal trifecta. Uh, these three conditions, if it worked, then I can tell the company is in a disaster mode. Like, you have developed the MCP server on the database which exposes the private DB, and you have a untrusted input on that, and you have a exfiltration capability on that. Actually, by default, MCP have this as a design that you can develop, but the kind of infrastructure you develop these to happen is something is in our control. MCP's by default job is to perform all these tasks, but on top of that, how we have our wrapper to send back, like, filtrate the only data required by user, not the sensitive information that belongs to other users, and kind of input validation, or the guardrails on the LLM parsing. That is also something depends upon the architecture that we define. And private data, that is completely depend upon the business, how they want to expose their contents to the users. Yeah. So in this section, we just gave some overview about the security landscape about MCP and the common vulnerabilities that are coming in the nature, and we understood about the financial impact and the kind of architecture vulnerabilities it brings to the table, right? From the next section, let's discuss about actual topics that everyone are looking for, like how one can perform the secure design review on the threat modeling. We have a general real case scenarios, and we have we are I mean like we're gonna do the design review with some examples, and we have almost like 50 plus security threats that can happen on MCP. We have come up with all the possible threats that can happen on each sections, right? So we're gonna discuss about this definitely going forward. It will be a very exciting to learn about security things in MCP. Until now, we understood what is MCP and how MCP functions, and where is MCP as part of security posture. Now going forward, we'll dive deeper into understanding how we can perform the security audit on the MCP servers, right? All right, see you guys in the next section.